This is a recording of the first kind of 10 minutes of the meeting. Unfortunately, I'd forgotten to turn on the recording system, so the first part of our meeting is not recorded. So this is my voiceover of what transpired at the first meeting of the Adventist Teachers Association. So welcome to the Adventist Teachers Association. And really what I want to say is that I think I should perhaps think to rename this the Adventist Education Association. But I don't want it to be misconstrued that this is just for Seventh-day Adventist teachers. This is for teachers, any member of our church that is in education. So yes, it will be primarily teachers, but I'm calling for lecturers from nursery through to university, whether you are a researcher, whether you are a TA, whether you are an educational psychologist, you're a learning mentor, if you're a bursar, an accountant, finance, whatever you do in education, we want to hear from you and we'd like you to join this association. So at the moment it's called Adventist Teachers Association. Maybe in time I'll change it and it'll become the Adventist Education Association. Anybody working in the mainstream sector or in the Adventist church school system, this association is for you in whatever level that you work in. You could be retired. We still want you to join in this association because it's about us working collectively, collaboratively as people who have been given the gift of teaching, for mentoring, for researching, and for supporting people in education in whichever shape or form. So this Adventist Teachers Association is for anyone in the education system. So please do tell somebody about it. Maybe you've been told we need as many people from across the Union, that's the Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and of course England. In any of those territories, this association is for you. So please pass the link on, and we want you to share this video with others who may have missed the program. So what did we start to talk about will be what we discussed in the next few slides, and then you will move to the actual recording of the meeting at the time when I remembered that this recording was for this meeting should have been recorded. So thank you for your attention. Please do share this video and what we're trying to do for education in the UK. Please do share it with everybody that you know who could benefit from this. So what I started with is what you can see on the screen, where we looked at all these items during the program. We did have a devotional from Pastor Brooks, and then we went on to follow, as you can see on this agenda. So the devotional and prayer was taken by our own BUC president, Pastor Eglin Brooks, who is very much supportive of the education system that we have in the UK, that it should be vibrant, it should be an outreach tool, and it should be indeed a ministry for us as teachers who serve in the UK. We want to be part of the wider church, the Adventist church education system that is across the world, which you'll hear a little bit about later. So his thoughts were that we together as teachers and workers and supporters of Christian education will come together in ways that will further the work of the gospel through the means of education. And he prayed for us and wished us well. And he stayed with us all the way through. So he's really supporting us in our role as educators, and lifting up Jesus in our schools, and for you too, for the work that you do in educating, even though you may be in the mainstream sector. I then went on to speak about my role. Now, I have several roles as the BUC Education Director, And one of them, of course, is to look after our many schools. And so we spoke about that. Then I spent a little time speaking about the fact that I'm here to support you as teachers in the mainstream sector. I know that there was previously a Adventist Teachers Association. If you're listening to this recording and you were part of that SDA Teachers Association, the Adventist Teachers Association, please do get in contact with me at lmcdonald@adventist.uk. That's LMCDONALD, lmcdonald@adventist.uk. I'd like to hear from you so that we can pull things together. Maybe we can merge something together, but I surely would like to come together with those who've previously been members of the original Adventist Teachers Association. So I've called this a relaunch because I don't want to step on the toes of something that has already been successful and is working well. I'd like to see how best we can collaborate together. Another part of my role is to support families of pupils in the mainstream education system. And so I want to see how best that can be done. But I'm only one person. And this is why I called on you as members of the education system, the mainstream education system in particular, to help me in supporting families whose children are in the mainstream sector. You have been gifted with the talents and the skills to do this kind of work, and I'd like very much to work with you as you help me as we support families of pupils in the mainstream sector. And then I also have a responsibility for the homeschooling community. And again, you might be listening to this and you're a homeschooler. Maybe you are aware of people who have elected to go to choose to homeschool their children. And part of my role, again, is to support them. And there are various ways in which that can be done. There are avenues and there are opportunities that homeschoolers are not open to. But we can bring those skills that we know, those mechanisms of support that we are open to us in the mainstream sector. We can help with that and bring that together to help our homeschoolers. So part of my role is to do that. I have many other things to do, but those are the main ones that I think I wanted just to bring to your attention as what I have to do as the BUC Education Director. We then went on to launch the Adventist Teachers Association registration system. And so that's what you can see on the screen at the moment. And if you are a teacher listening to this recording and haven't already joined the Adventist Teachers Association, then please follow the link that is on the screen here, or go to the adventist.uk, which is the BUC website, and click on departments, then click on education, and you should see the link for Adventist Teachers Association. I'd like you to register, and I'd like you to tell other teachers to do the same. We need to get hold of you for various things. I want to call on the skills of people who are on the cutting edge of education, and by having a registration of all the teachers, all educationalists, all people who have previously been in education, we then have a huge database of people that I can contact for specialisms, whether that be early years, whether that be at the university level, whether it be for mentors, whether it be for people who work with special needs. Having a database of people who I can call upon when needed, both for our schools, SDA schools, both for our families in the mainstream sector, and also for our homeschoolers. We want to support, and of course I need to call on you, the experts, to get involved. So if you haven't already done so, please do go to the adventist.uk, which is our BUC website, and click on departments and then education, and you should see the link for the Adventist Teachers Association. Please do fill that in. It is really important that we have your name and information. We then went on to talk a little bit more about how I can support you as a teacher in the mainstream sector. And I did this through a poll. And what I'm going to do is you should find not far from this video a link of the poll that we took. So it will be another little questionnaire that I'd like to ask you to fill in. And what it did, it was to show, what day, how frequently you'd like us to meet, how, what days of the week, the kinds of things you'd like me to support you with, and various other things. So I will endeavour to have that poll, if it's not already there, for you to click on and just fill in the poll as though you were part of this meeting. There was a second poll which I'm going to also put it together, or it may make one of the same poll. I may just attach it to the end so that you don't have to go out into another poll, and that will then capture your responses, because either you weren't at the meeting or you weren't able to complete the poll at the time of our recording. So that's where we got to, and then I started to continue, and remember that I should have been recording, and so the meeting goes on from here. Do listen as we endeavour to work together to raise the standard of Seventh-day Adventist education here in the UK, and to support one another in what is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world, the teaching of children. Thank you. Thank you very much. 60 of the 70 people that are on board have responded. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to end the poll now. Thank you very much for that. Okay. All right, so let me go back to my screen and continue sharing, and we will proceed. Thank you very much for completing that. So we are going to try to support you, or I am, and others as I get your support. We are going to try and support one another in the teaching profession. I've been in the teaching profession for almost 30 years, and I know that teaching is everybody needs support. The workload that is there for teachers just seems to be increasing over time. So I recognise that we are all going to need support to be able to support one another. So let's move on. So I'm going to ask this question now. How can you support the SDA education? How can you support the SDA education? Some of you may feel, because I'm in the mainstream sector, then I can't do anything to support SDA education. But I can tell you that in my time, even though I've been in the mainstream sector for a very long time, I've still been able to support our schools in various ways, and we want to try and see if we can engage you in doing that. So I'm going to just put out a few things here, so that you get a full understanding of what the SDA education system is. So we as an SDA church operate over 8,000 schools across the world in over 150 countries. There are 95,000 teachers, and almost 2 million students are being looked after or taught every day. That's the extent of our education system. Did you realise that we are the largest Protestant school system in the world? So after the Catholics, we hold the largest Protestant school system in the world. And I just want to show you a little video that captures that. Okay, just bear with me. Hopefully we'll get this. And I'm going to show you a little video that will hopefully show you what we as a school, as a conference, as a church rather, has across the world. Now I've got too many screens open, so I've got to make sure I've got to get to this. Just give me a moment here. I did have it and it was all set up. Now I can't see it. Just give me a moment. Okay, just one moment here. It was showing. Here it is. So where can't I see it? Just give me a moment. All right, so I may have to come back to that slide. I'm having a little problem getting there. Let me just see if I can get there in a different way. Just a moment. But our school, as I said, we are operating 8,000 schools across the world, and it is our evangelistic tool. I want you to realize that our schools, as well as just educating people, is our evangelistic tool. And so we are wanting to capitalize on that here in the UK. I'm going to ask you to put in the chat how many, because this is an interesting question that I've asked since I've started this job. How many Adventist schools do we have in the UK? Put it in the chat. How many Adventist schools do we have in the UK? Whilst I try and sort myself out, put that in the chat. How many Adventist schools do we have in the UK? I'll give you a moment to put that up. How many Adventist schools do we have in the UK? And then Cindy, if you tell me what's the most popular number, give them a little while.
Okay.
Because what happens is people start. Okay. How many? Just give them a little moment. How many schools do we have in the UK? So that's England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland. How many schools do we have in the UK? All right, what's the most popular number?
The most popular number I'm seeing is 8.
Okay. All right.
I'm seeing 3, I'm seeing 5, but the most popular is 8. The highest number rather, is 10.
All right. Okay. All right.
No, there's 14.
14 schools in the UK. All right. We've got lots of people thinking about schools. Okay. We're not talking about home schools. We're talking about schools that are in schools where people go into a building to get to the school. So that's what we're looking at. And I'm still not able to share my file. What is this? Okay, I've got to shut some windows. I think I've got too many windows open. How many schools, anybody? So the answer is, I'm just going to tell you, I'll come back to the screen in a moment and see if I can find my sharing, my screen to share. I have too many windows open. The answer is 8. And that's 8 if you include Eden School. So Eden School is part of our education system, but it is an Adventist school, but we are not the proprietors. So it is run by a set of it was started by a group of families, and so it is an independent school, independent of our education system in that sense. But I still refer to it as an Adventist school. So we have 8 schools, and that is including the Stanborough schools. We have Stanborough Primary and Stanborough Secondary. We'll come back to that in a moment. So let me stop doing this because I don't think I can share that video. I'll see if I can share it in a little while. All right, so let me share. Yeah, some people think it's 9, and now it's quite interesting that though our schools are it's such a large part of what we do, yet it is not regarded as people don't seem to know how many schools we have. This is one of the things that I found quite surprising, that we have so many schools and yet people do not know about them. I find that quite telling, that education is not a priority for us, and we need to do something about that. So we have the largest Protestant school system in the world, and yet a lot of people don't seem to know about it. These are the schools that we have in the UK, and these are the times in which they started. Some of them are over 100 years old, as you can see. Highland House next year will celebrate their 100th year. but yet people do not know about our schools. Can anybody tell me where Fleetwood School is? If you know, just put it in the chat. Give you a couple of minutes. Where is Fleetwood School? Because that was one of the schools people don't know. Where is Dudley House School? Unless you're one of the teachers there. These are the schools that most people seem to not know about. Where is Fleetwood School and where is Dudley House School? What's the answers, Cindy?
We have Plymouth. I guess that's for the first one. Fleetwood, yes, Fleetwood in Plymouth. Dudley, Grantham, someone says.
Someone said Grantham. So,
yes.
But very few, I can see that lots of people aren't putting in their answers because most people don't know where they are. So we have Fleetwood School in Plymouth and Dudley House in Grantham. But we won't spend too much time. Now, it is quite interesting that the General Conference have launched a strategic focus for 2020 to 2025, and they have got these different KPIs that they are wanting to see cascaded across the world. And you can see, particularly, let's just look at 2.10, that each conference and mission should attempt to start a new school in their conference, in their union rather. So each conference and mission has a 5-year plan to increase the number of Adventist primary and secondary schools in their unions, effectively. And yet we are struggling with the let's say the 8 that we have. And then I want to focus particularly on KPI 5.9 to increase the number of children from Adventist homes and churches attending Adventist schools. How can we do that in the UK where education is not on the radar as it is across the world? Okay, so how can you support the UK SDA schools? All right, and some of the areas that I'd like to try and engage you in, and this is why when you go through and fill in the registration form, I'm asking for lots of information to find out what expertise you have. I'm just one person and I can't do all the things that I would like to do, but you can get involved. You can get involved in supporting our schools. You can be a governor at our schools. Many of you are probably governors at other schools. I'm a governor at a mainstream school. You could be a governor at our schools. In this age now of Zoom, as you can see, lots of the meetings are held by Zoom. So even the school in Plymouth, you could be a governor for that school. All right. They have got governors there, but there should be a turnaround of governors over time. And even in the mainstream sector, I've worked in the mainstream sector, as I said, for so long, but most of the times the people that are on the governing bodies have very little knowledge about education. You are, more than ably qualified to support our schools through governance. Okay. Now, I have got one of the things that one of my jobs that is I've got to try and complete this year is to do a review. And many of you in the mainstream sector will know the local authority will come in and do a review. If you're part of a multi-academy trust, the trust will come in and do a review. And of course, you get the Ofsted inspections and so on. But you will be used to having, some of you within your trust will have peer-to-peer, school-to-schools reviews. I wish to do the same in our schools. And for me to get to know our schools properly, I need to undertake school reviews. But I don't want to, again, it's not something that you would know. You don't do a school review on your own. You have a team of people. And so I would like other people to assist me in doing school reviews. We also have what is called the AAA inspection. This is the Adventist Accreditation Association. So each school, each Adventist school has to be accredited by the GC effectively. It's done through the TED. And so every 5 years, if you get a good inspection, you are inspected. And only if a school is properly meets the criteria of the AAA inspection, should the school receive appropriations from the from whether it's the mission or the conferences. That's the ruling. So again, most of our schools have had their AAA inspections. There's about 3 of them that need to be done. I need people to help me undertake the AAA inspections of our schools. That does involve people from the TED and, of course, myself from the union, but we would want the expertise of others who have some understanding of education. And, of course, particularly if you've worked in our school system before, then we'd want you to get involved in that. So that's another way in which you can come. Curriculum development, I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. Specifically, and supporting schools overseas. So how do we do that? So as I said to you, even though I've been in the mainstream sector for quite a while, you will know, particularly if you work in large trusts, large schools that have money, not all schools have money, but what some schools do, when they depreciate their equipment, they're thrown in the bin. I've seen whole skips of computers being thrown away, smart boards that were just, still in perfectly working good order. That it's not tat, but all they're doing is they've been depreciated. They throw them out and get the latest model. Well, I've chosen to take those equipment and send them abroad. I've sent to Zimbabwe. I've sent to Ghana. There are different schools abroad that are just fledgling schools. One of our schools, some of you in the primary sector will know of one of the maths schemes, and the name has just come out of my head. It will come back to me in a moment. A brand new scheme, and the school decided they didn't want it. Thousands of pounds they paid on that, and I said they were just about to throw it in the bin. I said, no way, I will send this to Power Maths. That's what it's called, Power Maths. If anyone's ever worked with Power Maths, you'll know how expensive that is, because each child has a workbook, and they decided, no, we're not going to use that scheme. We're throwing it out. All of that would have gone in the bin. Well, you will be parties to some of those things if you ask for those things and say, look, we know a charity, we know a school abroad, and the schools are more than willing to say, oh, we contributed to this school abroad. And so that's another way in which you can support SDA schools across the world. So what are we talking about in terms of our supporting our schools in our curriculum? In 2009, under Anne Pillmore, there was a BUC primary curriculum that was started, and it was created by the teachers of the Adventist schools in the UK at the time. Well, I've had to go into many of our schools, and many of them now are not. Some of our schools are not led by Adventist teachers. They're Christian teachers, and they are doing an excellent job. But our biblical worldview is sometimes being lost. And when I mean by biblical worldview, it is not just about RE, and it's not just about collective worship. What we believe in is teaching from a biblical worldview. That's what Adventist education stands for. And this is from Harper Bell. Their school intent is that Christianity underpins the curriculum. This is what they're saying. And this is what should make us distinctive from other Christian schools, that our Adventist Christian principles are taught through the curriculum. And as I said, it's more than just RE and collective worship. Well, what I've realized is that because we've got quite a few people who are Christians but not necessarily Adventists doing a great job, they don't necessarily understand how to integrate faith and learning. And so my hope is to create a new version of this that will be a supplement, something to integrate faith and learning into the national curriculum. Again, I'm just one person and I can't do it on my own. So I'm asking for volunteers. If you can spare the time to help develop what I'm calling a supplement to the national curriculum, I will talk about what education, integrating faith and learning looks like in our next meeting. Time would not permit me to share that with you today, but that's what I'm looking for, volunteers. If you're interested in getting involved with that, I need you to get involved. So once again, I'm going to start another poll. It's a very short one. I'd like you to fill in the poll and tell me how you could get involved in some of the areas that I've just spoken about. So I've launched the poll. This time it's just 3 questions. I would like you to indicate how, if you're willing to get involved in any of these areas of supporting our schools, whether it's developing the school curriculum, whether it's school reviews, the AAA inspections. I'd like to think that we could probably, not necessarily this year, but in due time, we would be able to develop an online school. That's a possibility. We may not be able to do that straight away, but in my tenure, I'm here for 4 years, we could probably start the beginnings of that. So please fill in this questionnaire. It is only 3 questions this time. Would you like to support SDA education from where you are, from using the skills that God has given you? Yes, you're not in our education system at the moment, but you could still be supporting our schools. So please, as quickly as you can, if you could fill in the poll. I realize I'm asking you to do a lot of filling in, but I need to get to know you, get to understand who you are, get to know what your needs are, and to get to know how we can support one another. And so whilst this meeting is a bit of too much of me talking at the moment, I do need to see how I can engage people in supporting our schools. And I realize that you all are very, very busy people. And this is why if I've got a broad spectrum of people, then I don't need to be calling on just a few to help with the work. So I would appreciate if you could just continue to fill in the this short poll, few questions. Yeah. Now, question 3 asks, are you willing to get involved in the discussion of the future of SDA schools in the UK? So at this moment in time, we are trying to, through the BUC, we have started a commission to look at how we can support our schools. In another meeting, I will show you the trend of where our schools are going in terms of the numbers attending. And you can see why the GC have made it part of their remit to see how we can increase the number of children attending our schools. So if you'd like to get involved in that discussion, again, you can answer in the chat. As I said, when I put depends, because the poll doesn't allow you to write something down, then if you could put that, what your thoughts are, into the chat once you've completed the question. I can see 45 of the 71 people completing have completed the questionnaire. So I'll just give you another minute or so. You can support SDA education from where you are. I don't believe that God has gifted you just to teach the mainstream, although you may be sharing your faith there and doing marvelous work, I'm sure. Some of that skill can be still supporting our SDA schools from where you are. So thank you very much. I can see 50 people have completed. The majority of you have said you'd want to get involved in the discussion. And I respect those who have said no. That's absolutely fine. I totally understand that. And it may not be within your gift to do so. I can see lots of support for homeschooling. Great. We are going to be analysing the education questionnaire, because one of the things that I am proposing to do, to get a full view of what people think about our schools, a questionnaire will be coming out in June, July, to ask about people's views of our SDA education system. So we want to engage with our constituents. So a questionnaire will be going out, but of course that data will need analysing. So thank you to those who are willing to help me with the analysis of that data.
Hi, Lorraine, can I just say this comment came into the chat. One person said it depends where overseas, but I personally find this quite rewarding. This comment that says we want to get out of mainstream and serve our church, and I think that's really brilliant.
That's fantastic, and today is about allowing you to have the opportunity. Of course, we've got 74 people already on this chat, and I'm sure there are many more that would have liked to have been here and can't be for various reasons. But we couldn't put everybody in our schools. We'd love to. Of course, unless you want to start a new school, we could do that. But there are still ways in which we can. If you're wanting to get out of mainstream, there will be opportunities, I can assure you. So thank you to those who are making those comments. And then by the end of the year, we are hoping to take the data from the questionnaire, and we will be writing a messenger special. And this messenger will be completely about education in the UK. So we're going to write the history of our education system in the UK, talk about the schools that we've got, the schools that we used to have. We're going to put the results of the questionnaire will go in there. We will do some debunking of what people think about SDA schools and the myths that exist, and looking at a way forward for developing SDA education. So where I've put writing the history of SDA schools, particularly if you've worked in our schools and know how they started, whether you have pictures and things like that, I would like some help with writing that history of our SDA schools. So thank you very much. I'm just going to give just one more minute for you to fill in that, and then we can move on. There will be an article coming out in the Messenger in May this month. We should be having an article again. It will ask people to join our okay, let's see how we get on. All right, we've got nearly 55 people have completed. If you could continue to do that, I'd be really grateful. Okay. Right, I'm going to stop the poll. I'm hoping that everyone's had a chance to fill that in. As was asked before, we'll see whether we can somehow get that ready, the poll to people in a different format. Okay. Right, so I'm going to end the poll. I'm sorry to those who have not finished completing, but I'm going to end it now. Okay, so that's the poll ended. I will look at those results a bit later, and we will we'll progress with the meeting. So let me start doing that, and we'll go back to our presentation. So hopefully we can do that. I'm just going to see. I think I've now found the document. This. See if we can share this with you. Can you see that, Cindy?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. All right.
Yes. Of the Seventh-day Adventist Church are grounded in the biblical view of how God created us, an inseparable integration of mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. Pioneering Adventists realized from the beginning formal education was the ideal way to nurture this concept and develop the talents and characters of students while preparing them to serve others, at home, across the country, and throughout the world. Today, Adventists operate the largest Protestant educational system in the world, with nearly 8,000 schools, from preschools to universities, in more than 100 countries. Battle Creek College, today Andrews University in Michigan, was the first Adventist college, founded in 1874. And in 1896, Oakwood University in Alabama opened to educate recently freed African Americans of the South. Challenging the sentiments of the time, Edson White, son of Adventist church pioneer Ellen White, built a riverboat and organized trips down the Mississippi, offering education to the underserved Black community. Andrews University has grown and now attracts undergraduate to doctoral students from around the globe. U.S. News & World Report ranks Andrews University as one of the most culturally diverse universities in the nation. A major focus of Adventist schools is training new generations of healthcare providers. The first medical school took root at what is now Loma Linda University in California, a world-renowned center for medical education, innovation, and research. Other medical schools dot the globe, operating in Mexico, Peru, Argentina, Nigeria, and the Philippines. Adventist hospitals also train future health professionals. Adventist University of Health Sciences in Orlando, a part of Adventist Health System, is just one example where the whole person philosophy of care is translated from textbook to life. In small classrooms and expansive campuses, from Malaysia to Ukraine to the Native American nations of the United States, 93,000 teachers are helping 2 million students achieve the highest standards of education, learn healthy living, develop Christ-centered values, and change the communities where they will live. And now you know another piece of the whole story.
Okay, so that's a little bit just encapsulates what our church system is really all about. All right, and we want you to be part of that system, whether you are in the school or whether you are outside in the mainstream. You can be part of supporting Adventist education in the school in various ways, as it said, from those very small schools, as it said there in various parts of the world. Those schools have limited resources, but we can support those schools in various ways. And being part of the Adventist Teachers Association in the UK, though we be small compared to the schools across the world, we can do great things in for our education system. God has gifted you with the gift of teaching, and we can use it in various ways wherever we find ourselves. This is so important to us, why we are so passionate about Adventist education, because of these kind of statements. The Catholics say, give me a child until he's 7 and I will show you. Well, the Catholics use this statement from Aristotle. Give me a child till he's 7 and I will show you the man. And this is one of the ones that always troubles me. And even though I've worked in the mainstream system, this is by humanists who are looking at New Age religion. And this is what they say about education. I am convinced that the battleground for humankind's future must be waged and won in the public classroom by teachers, we'd say the mainstream classroom, by teachers who correctly perceive their role as the proselytizers of a new faith. You will know that anything that the government wants to change, they put it through the school system. And so our schools are designed to, as I said, to teach from a biblical worldview and to give our children the right concept. But what do we do for those many children who aren't in our school system? Well, how do we support one another when we work in the mainstream system ourselves? And the question has to be asked, why is the battle being won in the classroom and not in the churches? Because the people have understood, the Catholics have fully understood, we don't build churches as Catholics, they don't build churches, they build schools. And I've been working in 3 Church of England schools, and they too have realised that they are losing ground in the church. And so they are now upping their game on making Christianity more overt in their schools. So you can get involved, and this is one that I want to share with you. We are going to have several job vacancies coming up very soon in 3 of our schools, in the primary schools. But we are recruiting a head for Standard School. We are wanting a head to start preferably in September, but if not, by in the new spring term of January 2023. If you are interested, please go to again, the website's on the screen. The link to the website is on the screen. Go to our Adventist website, the BUC website, who we are, and click on jobs, and you will see all the jobs listed there. But this job is our most urgent at the moment, as we are seeking a new head to lead our flagship school, Stanborough Secondary School. If you are interested, all the application form and details for that job are there. But as I've just been made aware of this week, there will be 3 other schools that have vacancies for teachers. So if you're wanting to get out of the mainstream system, go to that website and you will see the new jobs as they arise. So please think about how you can support our schools. We are looking for people who have got the gift that God has given you, to share that gift and that talent in serving God in our schools. So please, we're pleading, if you have got an interest, the closing date is the 13th of May. Please do go and download the application form and see how you can support our schools through taking up a post there. As I come to a close, we believe in the collaboration of school, church and home. That's what our Christian schools are about. And even though you are in the mainstream, we know that you are trying to do your very best as you educate people where you are. But our Adventist schools are there to serve as part of that evangelistic outreach of winning people for Christ. You know, I was reading an article and it said, if you think about our 8,000 schools, that is 8,000 evangelistic sites with over 95,000 evangelists, with ministering to almost 2 million attendees. That's the power of our schools. In fact, in the Eastern African division, they have the most schools of all the divisions. They have almost 2,200 schools, and they reported that in a year they have baptized 100,000 young people through their school system. 100,000. Now, we were privileged to baptize 4 children at Stamborough School, with 7 children standing up and indicating that they too want to join our schools. That's the power of Adventist education. And even where you are, you can still be a part of that. So we have run over time by about 10 minutes. I will ask if you could just bear with me for a short while. If there's any other business that you think I haven't addressed, then please, you can unmute now and say something. Make it very brief, and we just need to choose. Most of you said that you wanted that we would do a termly meeting, so we will seek to have one. We are in the summer term, but I may try and see if we can have one just before the end of this term. If not, it will be during the new term that starts in September. So, are there any thoughts? Anybody that wants to say to put something, say something? I will stop sharing my screen to allow us to do that.
I think, Lorraine, while people are thinking about what to ask or comment, maybe it'd be helpful to tell them how to register again so that you've got their details.
Okay, so if you joined late, again, if you go to our Adventist.uk website, that's the BUC website, then please look for education under the departments section, and you will see Adventist Teachers Association. If you haven't registered, well, you wouldn't have as yet, then please immediately after this, don't waste, don't say put it off, because I know you'll want to. It won't take you very long. Someone's asking if I can send a chat. Let me see if I can put. Can you go to our website and just post it in the chat for me?
Yes,
Cindy?
I'll do that.
If you could do that for me. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Let me just see what's going on in the chat. Okay, so we've done that. Anybody else? You can unmute, put your hand up if you wish to say something. Okay, I can see people who have messaged me privately. Okay, I can see a hand raised. Let me just see. If you wish to speak, I can see 2 hands raised. So I can see, all right, Neil, if you would like to, welcome Neil. Neil is part of an organisation in teacher training. I'll give him a couple of seconds to say something, Neil.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm an Adventist teacher with experience in Adventist education over a number of years in different capacities. I am currently running an Adventist education teacher training program with a view to training people to understand the principles of Adventist education from the Bible and writings of Ellen White. We have a full program, a short program, and an intermediate program. I'm also just in the process of putting out what's called a Bible in Education coaching program, which will be online coaching for teachers, whether in Adventist schools or mainstream schools, that want to understand how to integrate the Bible into their teaching and education work in very practical and relevant ways, and also developing what's called the Christians in Education app, which will basically help Christians deal with a lot of the dilemmas that they might face out there, especially in state schools, to do with their faith. And this will give pages with Q&As, scenarios and practical tips and things that can help you on the spot, even, if you're in these kind of situations. I will put my contact details in the chat. I currently have a website, Christian Education Solutions, and just in the process of launching a parallel website, Adventist in Education Solutions, which will have information about these programs. So if it's okay, I'll put my information in the chat, and you feel free to contact me if you want to find out more.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Neil. I'm just going to answer one of the questions. What if the experience of teaching is outside the primary and secondary sectors? So when you go to register, you'll realize that from nursery, whether you're a nursery provider, right through to university lecturer, we're asking you to register. So regardless of what level you are in education, what aspect of education you're in, we're asking you to register. Pastor Ikwisa?
Yes, thank you for recognizing my hand. I just wanted to commend you for. Can you all hear me?
Yes, can hear you, Pastor. Go ahead.
Coming through. Okay. Yeah, I want to commend you for organizing and bringing together this body of teachers, and it's my hope and prayer that it will grow as we seek and as we endeavor to build our schools here in the UK. May I just also ask that maybe what you need to do as well is to call a meeting for the pastors by themselves, just like you've done with the teachers. I think it would be nice because pastors move a lot. They have a lot of influence in all of our churches. It would be nice to have a pastoral meeting between you and them so that we can share the burden and the potential of our schools, because I think some may not have appreciated Adventist education. That is something. But also maybe another meeting just for parents, this, whether they have students in Adventist setup or not, whether they have children, if they're just adults who are just in. I think it would be good that we all come together. Let them hear what you're saying about the power and the potential we have in our schools. I think that will ignite the interest that we probably are lacking at the moment in these isles. And we are privileged, as you say. Many people outside Britain, they are praying to get the pound. We have resources within our fingertips. We have Amazon.com. You order today, you get it tomorrow. And yet our results are not, they're not something that we can be proud of. So I think this is a brand new day, and we pray for it to grow from glory to glory as we see God's favor through Adventist education. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Pastor. Okay, so thank you. Cindy has posted the 2 links into the chat for you to get onto our education department and to get to the Adventist Teachers Association. So she's posted that in. Thank you, Neil Lawrence, for also posting yours. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it would be good to discuss the Adventist education in the missions. Yeah. I'll take some time to read some of your comments a bit further on. So I want to just really thank you for being with us tonight. As I said, I feel as though I've done a lot of talking, but it's necessary in order to just launch this association as we go through. If you wish to, as I said, get involved, register, go to the website and register. If you're interested in the jobs, particularly for our head teacher at Stambler School, we need you to get involved with that immediately and start to put in your application. We will be interviewing in a couple of weeks' time. So desperately need you to get involved in that. And we will try to keep you informed through the job, not only on the website. If you think there's some interest in having a WhatsApp group, I didn't put that down as an option because some people are fed up of being in WhatsApp groups, but that might be something that we decide that we want to do. And if that be the case, then we can move forward with that. So any of suggestions that you have for furthering education in terms of our Adventist schools, please get in contact with me. If you want to support in the various ways, you've shown me your interest in the poll, but also you can email me direct. If there are any other suggestions, things that I've overlooked, please, I'm open to suggestions and ideas in ways in which we can develop our Adventist Teachers Association, and in turn develop our schools. So I want to just take this opportunity once again to thank you for getting involved. We need your help to help us make a difference. We believe that we are doing a work of educating, not just for now, but also for eternity. And we need your help to make that a reality. So,
Lorraine, can I just say something? Lorraine,
yes, sir. Yeah, very quickly.
Just before you finish, because like it's been a wonderful meeting. I would concur what's been said, but I think we need to build on an action point, some things. Otherwise, it just becomes another beautiful meeting. And some action points I think we need to consider is what you've said. First, how many education leaders do we have in each church?
Right, I'm going to ask the person, so if someone could mute the person. Cindy, if you can see who's, I think it's, thank you very much. Go on, Simon, sorry.
I think we need to action some things in order to move forward. Otherwise, it becomes a wonderful meeting, but we're not moving forward in terms of actions. So some action points we may want to consider is you may want to speak to pastors. Every church should have an education secretary, education leader as a suggestion. Secondly, the link, I think you should send it out to, once again, as a poster to encourage people that are not here.
Yeah.
And then start to think what we can do strategically now from this meeting.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think that's a fair point. As I said, we needed to get to launch, and I'm not one for having meetings where we speak and there's no action. So I do appreciate your point about making sure that we take some action from there. I will be drafting some action points from the response in the polls and the points that are put into the chat, so that we can start effecting change. I'm not about having meetings for having meetings' sake. I'm not going to call a retreat just for us to get together and think, but didn't we have a lovely time? We are living at the end of Earth's history, and other schools, other faith groups, I can tell you, are recognizing that one of the ways in which they can get their message out is through the school system. And God has already given us that many, many, decades ago. We need to now champion that here in the UK. Our schools are doing brilliantly across the world. We need that to happen here in the UK. And as I said, whether we're in the system or out, our mission as gifted teachers is to ensure that our schools flourish and that as many children can access Adventist education as possible. So totally agree with you on that, Simon. Thank you very much for your points. All right, so unless there are any other questions, as I said, I've gone over my time. I would like to bring the meeting to a close. I'm going to ask Pastor Equissa if he will close in prayer as we come to the end of today's meeting.
Sure, thank you. Let's all bow our heads as we pray. Our Father in heaven, thank you, Lord, so much for this moment that you have brought us from the various parts of this union. Thank you, Lord, for the burning interest that you've placed in our hearts for young people, that you have invested so much in them. And we know that for every young person, there is untold potential for the work that this church has been called to do, a very unique work just before the second coming of Jesus. Just like John the Baptist was called, just like Elijah was called at a very momentous time. We wonder, what if Elijah has shied away from his role? What if John the Baptist had stepped back and waited for the other John to do this work? Who would have prepared the way for Jesus to come? Now, here we are. We all said yes, and when we joined this church, that we would like to be part of a movement that has been called to prepare the way for Jesus to come. Lord, certainly when we look at where we are now, we are much more blessed than when we look at our pioneers, when they had very little, and yet they had so much a burden, so much lay ahead of them: persecution, trials, disease, and even potential death. Yet they moved on with faith, and they established so many institutions that today, with all the potentials that we have and with the affluence that we have, we ought to do 10 times even more. This is a wonderful beginning. We thank you, Lord, for Lorraine and for using her to bring these wonderful people together. And Father, even as we begin, as we plan to have another meeting with the pastors, another meeting with the parents, Lord, as you went before Israel, as they were to enter Canaan, may you go before this work in the British Isles. Thank you, because we know we haven't called ourselves, you have called us. And because you have called us, we come to you in obedience. And because we do so, we expect that you'll move, because you have promised to do so. Be with us now as we part from here. We pray that you'll be with each and every one of us wherever we'll be, but also with Lorraine as she now moves on to try and work on the things that we have discussed as we prepare for the future to come. Thank you for hearing our prayers. We ask these few mercies in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen and amen. Thank you very much, Pastor. I'm hoping that people can benefit from this, from being part of this Adventist Teachers Association. As I said, I will let you know the date of when we will have our next meeting. I will try to see whether we can have one towards the end of the academic year. If not, it will be the beginning or in September. So look out for that. We will be putting it on the Adventist website. But of course, if I've got your emails, I can email you directly. If there are people that you know have not been able to join tonight for whatever reason, we will try to put this recording on. I do apologize that we missed the first bit of it, but I'll put the recording link on our BUC website for them to see it. But also, if you could ask them to register as well, so that this group continues to grow and we can capture as many people as possible. Thank you once again for your patience. Have a good evening. Please do fill in the application form if you believe that you can support our school, particularly the headship at Stamborough Secondary School. Good night, everyone. Thank you, and good night, everyone. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Well done,
Good
Lorraine.
night,
Thank you,
everyone.
Lorraine.
Thank you.
Lorraine.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.